The Bipolar DM, Jason caught him. His show talks about Dungeons and Dragons, indie writing, and living with a mental illness, in particular bipolar disorder, borderline disorder, and major depression, among other diagnoses. Check us out right here on Saturdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, also on WLFE-DB.com, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. So take a seat, sit back, and get ready for the Bipolar DM.
And welcome to the show. I am the host, Jason, the Bipolar DM, and welcome to the first broadcast of the Bipolar DM show. And I've been doing this podcast for several years now, the Bipolar DM podcast, and just recently got picked up by WLFE-DB Radio Network to do a live show. And I'm very grateful to the network and this opportunity to do this show to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, indie writing, and living with a mental illness, particularly bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, and major depression, among other diagnoses. If you have any questions, comments, or topic suggestions, you can reach me by. So you can also visit my webpage, thebipolardm.com. There you'll find resources on the mental illness, Dungeons and Dragons, and indie writing, as well as my blog and previous episodes of my podcast. And also on Facebook, we do have a Facebook fan page. It is the Bipolar DM is the name of the page. It is the handle is called at the Bipolar DM, and that's the handle for our Facebook page. I have more up-to-date postings on there than I do on my webpage, just because it's an easier platform for me to work from on my phone. And also, we have a private group called the Bipolar DM Nation. And this is free to join. You don't have to be a mentally ill or a writer or play Dungeons and Dragons to become part of this. And I have articles, videos, as well as my live update that I do every day, every couple of days, sometimes several times a day, depending on what's going on in my life. And so this group is just gives a more behind the scenes look at what it's like living with a mental illness on a day-to-day basis. And I want to give a shout out to my brothers and sisters on WLFE.com. On there, you'll find other shows such as um, Paranormal View, LGBTQ Friends, Variety Unlimited, as well as Everything and Nothing. All great shows, and I highly recommend you to check them out. That's WLFE-DB.com, and there you can watch the shows, you can see previous episodes. There's links to all our different platforms that we have, and this is it's a great network. A lot of variety that's going on there, and today's topic, and our first topic, what we're going to be talking about is suicide and suicide prevention. Now, just to kind of give a disclaimer, we are not going to dwell on the act of suicide itself, but we're going to focus more on the effects of it and the prevention of it. And that is where our guests that we're going to have on today, we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about suicide among veterans, suicide among the civilian population, as well as suicide among the LGBTQ plus community as well. And so we got a lot of people we're going to talk to today about this, and I hope this is some good stuff that could hopefully help save some lives. Um, just to kind of give you a little background on my story, I'm a combat medic, the United States Army. In addition to that, I'm also a Navy brat, so I spent half of my life in the military. And my transition into the civilian world was really rough. I'm still having problems adapting to civilian life, having grown up in the military and having only known that life, and coming into the civilian world, it's definitely a culture shock and a different way of living. Um, I had during my first tour of duty as a combat medic, I was at Walter Reed Hospital, working ER, ambulance, and air medical evacuation when I developed bipolar disorder and borderline personality disorder. And it struck me down at the age of 22 and ended my career in the military. From the age of 6, that was all I wanted to do, was be in the military for my entire career. And unfortunately, having that snatched away from me because of this illness was very devastating, and it was very hard for me to adjust. And because of that, I had rejected my diagnosis of bipolar and borderline and refused to take my meds. And unfortunately, it had its detrimental effects on my life. And I ended up losing quite a bit of everything I had built up over the years since the military. And I went back on medication, and one of the medications I was on was a mood stabilizer that caused me to become suicidal. And I actually overdosed on sleeping pills in an attempt to take my own life. Now, at that time, nothing was really going on in my life that would have indicated I was suicidal. I wasn't having marital problems. I wasn't having career. I mean, I was having some career problems, but I mean, nothing that would have been some major red flags. It really caught everybody off on surprise, especially my spouse at that time when I had tried to take my own life. And it wasn't until afterwards that I had found out that the medication I was on, one of the side effects was suicide ideation and attempts. And so I almost became one of the 22 vets that try to take their own lives every single day. And since then, because I'm a suicide survivor, it's become more of my mission in life to educate and to promote the knowledge of mental illness, as well as suicide prevention and treatment as well. And so there's a lot of things that you can do to prevent suicide. You can be, first of all, you need to be your own greatest advocate if you yourself are having problems mentally. Nobody else is going to be able to do it for you. And so, having said that, there's a lot of things that you can do. 5 things in particular to help a loved one who might be going through suicidal ideation right now, or SI. The first thing is you need to be alert about what's going on in their life. don't be judgmental about, how bad things might be or how things as bad as they seem, because, from their perspective, it may be insurmountable and huge. And so be very aware about, what's going on and what might be feeding into their that in their hopelessness and their ideation of suicide. The second thing you can do is you can communicate. Don't be afraid to talk with your loved one about their feelings, and don't discount their feelings as well. Blowing somebody off is the worst thing you can possibly do when they're struggling with suicide. And that leads into the third things, which is showing support. Showing support is more than just talking about their feelings, but actually actively asking them, are you suicidal? Are you thinking about killing yourself or taking your own life? Believe it or not, this does not cause some person to become suicidal or to take their own life. In fact, from what I've learned in my own training, this actually can help prevent suicide when you actually ask them directly what's going on in your life and what are you thinking and what are you going through. So be sure to do that. Be sure to ask those direct questions, those hard questions, and don't be afraid to ask that question, are you suicidal? And then that leads into the fourth thing, which is express your love for that person. The most greatest thing that, is, well, one of the worst things that you have when you are suicidal is hopelessness and isolation and being alone. And it helps a lot to be reminded that there are people out there that care about you and that love you and are with you entirely into the entire way. And then it leads into the fifth thing, which is sharing your feelings with one another. So, you got Tim, you have them expressing what they're feeling. Express also what you're feeling as well. Don't try to talk about your own feelings and your worries and your fears as well. We'll go into later in the broadcast some of the signs and symptoms of suicide, risk factors, and also treatment and prevention. And one of my first guests I have on is going to be Tank, a veteran, and let's go ahead and bring him on board.
How's it going, everyone? I'm Tank.
All right. Hey, got you on here. First
There
guest
we
of the
go.
show. Welcome. And I
Thank
want to
you.
go ahead and we'll go ahead and just get a quick background on you. Um, First of all, you are a military vet, United States Marine Corps, huh?
Raw.
And what led you to join the military?
I was actually graduated high school 2001. Um, my town here in Rosemont, you can be an auxiliary cop at 18. So I did that, and with doing that, went through the training, was doing that, and then September 11th hit that morning because I'd worked all night, and so I was on the news, and my dad is a Chicago cop, and him and his guys were getting ready to go down there. And so he said, "Hey, you want to go with?" So without hesitation, sure, let's go. So we went down there. We were down there for about 2 weeks. Got escorted down to ground zero by some of the first responders and volunteered and assisted there and pissed me off. Came home. Friday, went to the recruiter's office. Pretty much said, "Hey, what do you got that leaves right away?" And they had some engineer openings with some bonuses. Um, Signed the paperwork. Saturday, did all my stuff, and got home. Told parents, "Hey, I'm leaving Monday." And that's kind of just being pissed off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know from my own experience on that too that first thing I did was go to the recruiter's office, and unfortunately they wouldn't take me back because of my diagnosis. But I was right in there too, ready to join up and to join into the fight. Now, what is your military career? Now, you had joined the Corps, and what did you do in the Corps?
So I went in as a heavy equipment operator. Bonuses for that. Went through school, passed school, did all the workups, first appointments. Then it went to Iraq in '03 for the whole invasion thing, front lines. And then just I had the cutting score for EOD, so yeah, they're like, hey, want to join? There's a sign-on bonus. I didn't know what EOD was. Sure, why not? And got to the EOD school, and I'm like, oh shit, EOD, all right. And it was a whole new beast. But that, and I loved it all the way up until I got out. But it was great, and most of the time through EOD, I got injured overseas on combat in Fallujah. So, back injuries. Truck got blown up, so got tossed from the gun turret. Couldn't do my job anymore.
Okay.
My injuries, and they're like, hey, you can stay in, or stay with us and just be an office bitch. Me, nope, not after being in the shit in front lines, couldn't do it. And so they had opening for kennel master. Hey, sure, I love dogs. Went out to the kennel master course and became a kennel master and just loved it up until the day that I got out. It was just great. Military looking dogs, training them, training the guys on how to train them. That was my calling.
Okay. That leads right to my question. What was your transition to civilian life?
Oh, it sucked, and it's still hard. Luckily, my family, my wife and kids, they know it's something you're never going to be used to. I still go out to restaurants. I still sit
Yep.
in the far back corner. So I got to have my back out to the wall and always have to see the door. Always have an exit strategy. I hate crowds. Shit on the sides of roads.
Yep.
I'm in Illinois, so potholes suck ass. So you see a big pothole, and right away, your heart rate starts going up, and you grip the wheel a little tighter. Yeah, it's you kind of learn how to live with it. It's something that just never goes away. It's just, to me, it's always going to be with you. And it's just how you can process everything is what's going to get you going through the days.
Yeah. So how did you cope, though? Both the positive ways you coped and the negative ways that you coped.
Well, we'll start with the negative ways I coped. When I first got out, was just most guys just hitting the alcohol. I was drinking a bottle of Jack a day, and we're talking 750 mils. And just one day I took my nephew, who was like 4, was like, hey, you're drunk. That was it. Quick cold turkey. Decided, hey, there's something better I could be doing with my life. So that's what kind of got me, up,
Right.
and I got my first service dog.
Okay. Now with the your transition to civilian life, what got you into training dogs? Because you have a company called Backblast Canine, and
Yes,
it's a private organization, a private company.
yep, that is correct. Yeah, so just seeing the positive from what having a service dog, he gave my life back. I was able to go out. I was able to enjoy life. He was my battle buddy, so I always had that connection with him. I always felt safe. Um, and a lot of guys, watching this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You need that, the brotherhood. So I saw the great he did for me. We did some events with some other organizations
Hmm.
with the veterans, and I always go back to the story. We had a veteran downtown Chicago was raining and thundering and storming out. And every time lightning and thundered, he would flip out and get a flashback thinking it was an IED. So I handed him over my dog. I said, "Here, man," and handing over that leash to him was like a complete 180 and focused on the dog. It was still thunder and lightning out, but he didn't react anymore. Um, so at that point in time, then I knew, hey, I need to do something. I need to give back. And so that's what led me to doing service dogs, and eventually, to where I'm at now, to where we can help have our service dog training program and a lot of for veterans to utilize. And I have too many buddies that I lost due to 22 a day. Some organizations or companies, and they're ridiculous how much they want for a service dog. And guys would have to second mortgage their
Yeah.
homes or do this and that, and it's there's no need for that. You serve your country. You went to combat, you saw some shit. back in stateside like yourself, you know, Walter Reed, you saw the guys coming back. So you saw your fair share of stuff. So there's no reason why you should have to, you know, second mortgage a home or just get rid of, you know, just there's no point to that. So it's my mission to give back to veterans. Luckily, you know, we have right now some dogs out there that we trained and that are training. Puppies were donated, you know, and those veterans, for them, you know, we donate our training time. We're AKC certified. All our dogs get AKC certifications. And, you know, we have a program for civilians as well. Again, you know, we're like barely a fraction of the cost of what people charge. But, you know, portions of that we set aside to give forth to veterans that we help, help and train and give them service dogs free of charge.
Yeah, I know my own life, my service dog definitely saved my life, and so I can attest to that, the impact they have on a person's life, especially a veteran who needs that battle buddy, that person that is, or that animal that is by your side through thick and thin, no matter what's going on in your life, that you have them to have your back. And it's great to hear what you're doing with veterans and helping them out. You know, you are a private company that you are a for profit, but you do this on the side for veterans, no cost to the veterans. And what's more, what's also awesome is that you go out to where the veteran is and help them get started with training on with their service dog. Something
Yep,
else
yeah,
does. Everybody else
yeah,
in
that's
this industry makes you come to them.
right. Yeah, that's what you know, we kind of try to set ourselves aside. You know, and then in the civilian sector, you know, somebody, you know, again, a lot of people out there with disabilities, and you know, they're kind of in the same thing we are. Where hey, I need a second mortgage, a house to get a service dog. Like no, so we pride ourselves, especially in the civilian sector too, where we travel the coast to coast. I don't mind driving, so you know that's all we did overseas. And I think that's why I like road tripping now. Just I'll drive anywhere, I don't care. But if it's going to help somebody get out of that dark place, and if it's going to bring somebody, you know, to get them a better quality of life, and I'm all for it.
Good. All right. Sorry about that. I'm trying to do two things at once here.
Around
um,
multi, you know how
just
that
kind
goes.
of, just to, yeah, just to kind of just tie things up here. The 22 a day. Let's go ahead and go over that because a lot of people are not aware of what that means when they see hashtag 22 a day. What is 22 a day?
So 22 a day. That's you know how many veterans we lose every day due to suicide. You know, again, personally knowing guys and then losing a lot of buddies. You know, I'm trying to myself. Um, this it's too many. One is too many. So imagine 22 a day for someone that signed you know a piece of paperwork and you know took an oath to protect the country and give their life up if needed. And just for them to be in these places that they're in and have no support, or you know not know how to get support, or just for me being a Marine, you know, for me it was a pride thing. Um, you know, I just too proud to admit anything, but you know now I know what to look for. So you know, see guys that are down or kind of doing what I used to do and self isolating. You know, you know where they're at. Um, you know, and then for those watching, hey, you know, me and Jason, we've been there. You know, we've been in the darkest of the darks, and pride, hey, you know, like I tell some of my guys, sometimes you know, suck it up, reach out,
Awesome.
but you know, pride should never be an issue over you know how you're feeling.
Okay. Tank, I want to thank you so much for being on here. I really appreciate you being my first guest on the show. We got some people that are in the queue wanting to come on too, but
Appreciate
I
it. Thanks
wanted
for
to
having
give
us.
you a shout out. Yeah, I wanted to give you a shout out, especially your organization, your company with what you're doing, and that is Backblast Canine. The canine spelled out, not the abbreviation. You can be found on Facebook as well, and your email address is backblastcanine@gmail.com. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
All right. All right. Thank you again for being on, and I will talk with you later, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All right. see. Sorry about that. I had something else to stream. All right. Um, I've been getting noticed that I might not being heard on the broadcast. I might be having some technical difficulties. So I hope that my voice is being heard. It's kind of I'm working from my iPhone at the moment. I was having some internet problems with my iPad. So hopefully we can get that resolved if I am being heard. And let's go ahead and take a quick commercial break, and we're going to bring up Otis B. Dreads. He is going to come on board, and we're going to have a talk with him as well. So
2021 just got better. Your favorite shows from WLFE DB Radio can now be found on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Yes, we now video stream to both of those platforms. Search for your favorite shows like Where's My Sage, Inside the Drag Closet, Across the Pond, Everything Yet Nothing, Paratalk Radio, Step into the Paranormal, The Creepy Parlor, Just Cindy, and more. Now you won't miss an episode. Remember, follow Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Make sure you subscribe and follow your favorite WLFE DB radio shows. This award-winning thriller has it all. Murder, political intrigue, mob revenge, and a bit of romance. Not to mention strong female and male characters with a storyline that could be tomorrow's headline news. Now for a quick peek into our story. To help solving a nationwide plot involving the assassination of several U.S. senators, the O'Rourke team is called in. To complicate matters, they now have to work against the clock to rescue one of their own. You see, the mob didn't take too kindly to the O'Rourke team's involvement last spring. It seems to have led to the indictment of their boss. Will they succeed? Oh yeah, life just got sweeter now that WLFE DB has merchandise. Show your support by purchasing your t-shirts for WLFE, Paratalk Radio, Inside the Drag Closet, and more. But it doesn't stop there. T-shirts, coffee mugs, tanks, buttons, cloth bags, and more. Go to WLFE-DB.com. On the top bar, click on the merchandise tab and bam! There you go. You got merch. Support the shows. WLFE-DB.com. You're listening to WLFE DB Radio. Now back to our program.
Welcome. I don't think I can hear you, sir. Looks like you are muted. I believe you are muted. Haven't we all been here? God knows I have. Hit your unmute down there. Right down there at the bottom. Right there in your eye. Yeah, hit that mute right down there. Not sure where to go. It shows on my screen that you are muted. There you go. I think I can hear you now.
Okay. Sorry about cutting off the. I'm having a little technical issues on my end, but I'm here with
No worries.
oldest B Dreads.
Yes.
And great to have you on the show, man.
Hey, thank you for having me,
let's
man.
go ahead
It's a good topic.
Let's go over real quick. What's your show about that you have going on?
Night of Living Dreads podcast. We talk a lot about just pretty much anything horror, a lot of true crime, a lot of serial killer stories. We do movie reviews, things of that nature. Just all in all, have a bunch of fun, have some laughs, and talk about our passion, that being horror and the horror genre and all the different subgenres of that.
Yeah. Now, what led you to go into this podcast, this show?
Just for horror, I've always been into radio and things like that, and I'd always done some other things, other topic matters, being more political, and just wasn't having as much fun. So I got into the horror, and I was like, I put the mic up for quite some time, and I started getting, I don't know, when you want to travel, they say you get itchy feet, right? So I guess I got an itchy throat. I wanted to talk again. I wanted to, connect again. So horror was something that we can all have, kind of fun with. It's not that serious of, a matter. But and that's what I was looking for. And that's what it turned into. And started, it's going on 3 years this August. So it's going strong, and a lot of good things happening. Yeah, Night of Living Dreads podcast is over at nightlivingdreads.com. Dreads with no A. And thank you, sir.
Okay, awesome. Now, in your discussion, in your podcast, you've come across, a lot of horrors and stuff like that. Now, the topic we're talking about today is suicide prevention. What have you come across as far as like the history of suicide and your own personal experiences with that?
Yeah, my personal experiences started out being more of a self-mutilation thing. It started in my early teens. I didn't really know much about suicide or depression or any of those things before, I'd say, around the age of 14, 15 years old. That's when it all kind of started. There was some sexual abuse that started to rear its ugly head, and that led to a lot of side effects, or effects, I guess you could say. And it started with some self-mutilation, and then it got a little more, and I think it really, now that I look back, because I do not cut now, just so everyone knows, that's actually why I got, a sleeve right here. So it would deter me from taking and doing that. But yeah, it got more and more and more. And I don't know, looking back, if I was really wanting to die. I mean, some would say a cry for help, but it was the act of causing pain to myself that for some reason brought a very, very quick release. And it seemed like everything was over at that point, although that is a very, very bad coping mechanism. And it was almost like a drug. It was almost like a drug for me. Every time I felt a certain way, got into a deep depression, bam, that was my first thought. And over the years, I've kind of deterred that a little bit. And but that's pretty much, me in a nutshell. I mean, I've been in and out of psychiatric hospitals, some states, some just wards in a hospital. I've been on tons of medication. I do not take medication now. I just had a lot of bad experiences with them, being more physical and neurological, and it just wasn't my cup of tea. That wasn't what was going to help me. I was diagnosed with I don't even think I mentioned this. I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, or borderline schizo, which, some schizophrenics, I think, have, share a lot of the same symptoms as borderline borders or borderlines. And so they gave me that. They also diagnosed me with bipolar as well, which I think they were probably a little more accurate with the borderline diagnosis. But yeah, that's hard. Too bad I don't have more time. Maybe on another show, I'd have a little bit more time to take and get into it. Apparently, he's had a little bit of some issues there. He'll be back though. I guess I'll take over the show for a minute. Not sure where I should go there. I did find
Sorry
that.
about that. We
Oh, no worries, brother. I was trying to keep it going, man. I was trying to keep us afloat, buddy. But
yeah, we're just having all kinds of little issues going on right now. But
man, it'll happen at the worst times.
Yeah, it does. But going on to self-mutilation and stuff like that is, with the suicide rate, a lot of times they don't include the accidental deaths, from self-mutilation, because
Exactly.
I have experiences being a cutter too, and I've heard a lot of stories and seen a lot of stories as a medic of people who've taken it a little too far and slit an artery, or done other, or became a seriously toxic infected, or and stuff like that. And so it is a bad coping mechanism, and also getting onto medication. Medication is not a silver bullet, and it's not for everybody.
Right.
I struggled with med compliance myself. I finally, after 20 years, and I've had this illness for 20 plus years. It took almost 20 years for me to find the right cocktail of medication to get me stable. So it's a long road to get through, but it's not the only road when it comes to that. So
Absolutely.
there's a lot of different paths you can take when it comes to mental health and stability. Let's just to kind of tie this up before I bring on my next guest. What is your role, or how do you see yourself in helping prevent suicide? What do you like to do as far as you personally in being active in preventing suicide in other people?
Well, one thing that I started doing a while back is we will put together PSAs on the podcast, and we'll circulate them, we'll put them in there, we'll take them out. So hopefully the listeners understand that we understand that this is a problem. And I'm always if anybody. I actually have a friend right now, and she has I think a preteen, maybe right around close to a teen, who is just making what we determined was like idle threats, and just saying some thing regarding self-harm and things of that nature. And she told me that one of the first people that she thought of for her to talk to was me, because of my experiences. So I'm always willing to reach out to someone to talk. I actually almost did a podcast, started a new podcast exactly like what you're doing now, and my schedule just wasn't having it. So it is really an honor to be able to talk so openly about what is still very, very stigmatized. And that's the problem that we have with, suicides, with the vets, with the, general population, and just mental illness in general.
Okay. Well, Otis, I want to thank you so much for being on my show, and we're going to have you back again. Definitely going to be having you more as a semi-regular guest.
Awesome.
And I want to thank you so much. And just as a departing word, what's some what is a key point that you want people to remember when it comes to suicide and dealing with suicide ideation?
I think I know it's going to sound kind of cliche, but I think, don't ever think that, for one, you're alone, and two, nobody will listen to you. If you keep talking, don't try to deal with this by yourself. I have tried it and failed miserably sometimes and ended up worse off and had to dig myself back out. Don't, always reach out to somebody, a loved one, a friend. There's always somebody out there, like myself, like Jason here, who will talk to you. So never give up.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on, and
Thank
we'll go
you.
ahead and let you take off. You got some other business you got to take care of, so thank you
I
so much
do.
for.
On to another show. Thank you again, Jason, for having me, man. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, and thank you so much. And we got one more guest that we're bringing on. Let's see if we can. All right, stream. Few minutes. Sorry, I ended up a little bit early, but I want to take this opportunity while we wait for our last guest to come up. He's T-Roy, and he's a good friend of mine. He helped me actually get connected with this network, and we're going to talk about suicide and suicide prevention within the LGBTQ plus community with him and what goes on there. But as we wait for T-Roy to get with us, I wanted to talk a little bit about risk factors and signs and symptoms when it comes to suicide. Um, Risk factors would be, like life situations, like the death or terminal illness of a close friend or loved one, or divorce, separation, or a breakup of a serious relationship. Loss of a job, home, money, status, any kind of really large scale change in your life can trigger suicide thoughts or ideation, as well as misusing alcohol and drugs. Those are, alcohol is a depressant. It makes your mood even worse. Drugs, you're all over the map when it comes to drugs. And so and I'm talking about illegal drugs, illicit drugs, pot, meth, stuff like that. I'm not talking about medication. Big difference between there. And of course, depression, which is, the typical one everybody thinks about when it comes to suicide and suicide prevention, as the signs and symptoms as depression. Now, in addition to that, there are also certain times a year when a person is more prone to committing suicide or having thoughts of suicide, such as holidays or anniversaries, especially an anniversary of an important date or marriage or something like that. Another one, like I mentioned before, when treatment with an antidepressant medication first begins, that also is a big it can be a big trigger if you react badly to medication, like I had done myself, and that also can cause suicidal thoughts or ideations or acts. And also, just before, during disciplinary proceedings, such as going to court for traffic or other law breaking, or if you're having problems at work or your career, and you're being disciplined then. Those things can be as well for that. And let's go ahead and we got going on. Nice. Go ahead and bring them on real quick and all right. Ah, did I lose you? Yes, I lost them. I'm sorry. Try and come back on. I hit the wrong button. Still working on this system. So sorry, I dropped you guys. Want to have you back on real quick, and then with T-Roy, he should be in any minute now. Two things you want to look at on suicide prevention and also signs and symptoms are emotional and behavioral changes. On the emotional changes, you're going to be looking at overwhelming pain, the person just experiencing pain that's so devastating that they can't handle it. And hopelessness is like a biggest one right there. When I was suicidal, I had this sense of hopelessness that there was no chance that I could recover. All right, somebody back, and all right, it's Roy. All right, add stream.
Hey, hey!
Hey, how you doing?
I am doing great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Having some technical issues. Some people are saying they're not hearing me. I don't know what's going on my end, but we're working through it.
Well, that's good. Yeah, it happens. Gotta love the string guard sometimes. Hang on just a minute.
Yeah. So, um, I, I wanted to talk with you. First of all, your personal experience with suicide ideation.
Yes.
Oh,
I'm back. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Kind of.
Yeah, Go ahead.
I'm having some problems on my end on hearing you. Yeah, okay. Well, where you at? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, your screen's froze, so I can't see you, but I know you're there.
I,
One thing I mentioned to you that I wanted to discuss was the suicide rate amongst the LGBTQ community, and what goes on within the community there that causes such a high rate of suicide attempts or thoughts among that population.
well, it happens a lot. A lot of children are actually taking their lives because they are being pushed away by their parents or their peers and being bullied repeatedly, being called the F word or all kinds of just off the wall, horrible, horrible things. And, it's really hard because I think some people just don't realize that they're taking a life whenever they're a, uh, taking their life whenever they're being bullied and everything. And I think that some people need to check themselves and actually realize that not everybody is horrible on no matter what sexuality it is or anything, and that everybody needs to be accepted for who they are. So people will stop trying to kill themselves because they're being treated so horribly. People don't
Yeah.
understand that whenever that happens, they push out that inner soul within that person that they're doing it to. And that's basically killing them to wanting to commit suicide. And I don't think they really realize that whenever they judge someone, they're the ones judging someone. And whenever they're hating someone, they are the hater. They're the ones that are murdering other individuals with their words, with their hatred, and with their ignorance. And that's not that's it's high risk in LGBT, but there's also other kids out there that are going through all kinds of bullying and being treated horribly. And really, no child should be treated in any way but accepted and loved by their peers, by their parents, by everyone that is around them. And I think that if that happened, then that would be a better thing. Some people need to look up research on LGBTQ before they start judging or hating on them and really learn who they really are before that happens. Give them a chance, and listen to your children, listen to your brother, sister, aunt, uncle. It doesn't matter who it is. Just listen to them and talk to them and bring them out of the funk and depression that they are in.
That's great advice right there. Um, I want to go ahead and tie this up real quick. I got one more guest that's waiting in the wings, and I wanted to thank you so much for coming on my show. I want to have
You're
you back
welcome.
again. We got
Yes,
other topics. Yeah, we
absolutely.
got so many other topics we got to talk about. You're a fellow
Yes,
bipolar sufferer too, so we got a lot to
yes.
talk about in that too.
And you can
All
catch
right,
me
thank you
on
so much, T. Roy.
WLFE-DB Radio, everything yet nothing with T. Roy. Much love.
Yes, we got to definitely check it out. Yeah, much love. Definitely check out that show. All right, thank you so much, T. Roy.
You're welcome.
All right, we're bringing in. Oh, we lost our last guest. I'm sorry. Okay, while we wait for our last guest to come on, sorry about the booting and the getting on and off and stuff like that. Like I said, I'm having some technical problems here, but we're pressing on and pressing onto the target and moving forward. I had talked about some of the emotional changes that people go through when it comes to suicide. On the other half of that is behavioral changes as well. So while you have the emotional, overwhelming pain, hopelessness, powerlessness, worthlessness, shame, fear of losing control and harming yourself or others, you also have some behavioral issues, that behavioral changes that occur too when somebody is thinking about suicide or considering it. Something simply as appearing sad, withdrawn, tired, apathetic, anxious, irritable, prone to angry outbursts. You know, it's classic signs of depression right there. Not performing well in school or work or in life. You know, sudden. And this is not like a gradual thing. This is like a sudden change in behavior. You know, that suddenly things are going to hell in a handbasket is basically what's going on. They become socially isolated and fall into the wrong crowd. You know, so that's another thing too that can happen is isolation is a big one right there when you're looking at somebody who's separating themselves away from friends and loved ones. Um, Having a decline in interest in sex and friends and activities, you know, basically your hobbies and stuff that you normally enjoy. When you lose that drive, that want to do it, that is also a big sign and symptom of a person that could be considering suicide. Is a sudden decrease in interest in things that normally would give them pleasure. Another one is also neglect of personal welfare and letting their parents go. That's another one right there, especially with depression. Just the daily things that you do to upkeep your body, personal hygiene, like taking baths every single day or showers, brushing your teeth, combing your hair, you know, using product in your hair and stuff like that. Those things, you know, you don't think about when you're normal and not going through it, but when you are struggling just to get by, and every ounce of energy has to be delegated and conserved, you know, just to feed yourself or take care of your kids. Other things fall by the wayside, you know, such as personal hygiene. Um, some other warning signs are depression, previous suicide attempts, preoccupation with death, statements like, I'm better off dead, or you'll be sorry when I'm gone, or you'll be much better off without me. You know, talking openly about wanting to kill yourself. You know, when somebody's talking about suicide, it is a cry for help. You know, don't discount somebody talking about suicide thinking, oh, they're just all full of talk and they're not really serious about it. You don't want to be wrong. All right. If somebody's talking about suicide, take them seriously because it is a cry for help. Making out a will or giving away favorite possessions. Now, that's a big sign right there when you're starting to tie up loose ends, you know, in your life that you're ready to go. You'll start giving away prized possessions to friends and family, you know, things that, you know, you normally would never give away. And that's kind of that's a way also of inappropriately saying goodbye as a way of doing that, you know. So through the physical act of giving stuff away, they're also saying, you know, making goodbyes and making their farewells, disconnecting from their friends and family, making ambiguous statements like, you won't have to worry about me anymore, or I wish I could sleep and never wake up, or I just can't take it anymore. You know, those kind of statements, those are red flags when somebody's talking like that, and you got to take them seriously. And the biggest one right there is a sudden switch from being very depressed to being very happy or calm for no apparent reason. A lot of times that comes from the decision being made that they finally are going to be, that they're finally are going to go ahead and end it all. And they have that sense of peace and relief that the decision has been made. And so when you have somebody that suddenly flips like that from a depressive state to now they're more calm and not necessarily euphoric, but happier or more at peace with themselves, that's not saying they're getting better. That can also be a symptom that things are getting a lot worse. And so take those signs and symptoms very seriously. And if you see them in somebody, speak up. Get them help, whether they need to go to the emergency room, whether they need to talk to the primary care physician, a psychiatrist, psychologist, or the suicide prevention hotline. Those are great tools and assets to look at, as to look at doctors and stuff like that. I got the suicide hotline put down there. It's the same as the Veterans Crisis Line. It's 800-273-8255 or TALK. If you're a veteran, you press 1 and get straight away for specialized care for you. But that is also the suicide hotline as well. One of the last things I want to talk about in suicide prevention is making a safety plan. If you look behind me, this right here is a safety plan. What it is a list of doctors, signs and symptoms to look for, people to call, places to go, things to do when you're actively starting to think or talk about suicide. Having a suicide a patient safety template or suicide template, suicide safety plan is essential when you're depressed or going through a mental crisis. Now, the time to fill this out and make it is not when you're in the middle of the shit. It is when you are before, while you're calm, while you're normal. That's the time that you need to sit down and fill one of these out and have it ready for if or when you become suicidal or majorly depressed. Let's see. And wanted just to put a little shout out to WLFE-DB Radio. You can follow them on Facebook, doing Facebook right there. You can also go to their webpage, WLFE-DB.com, to see this show on rebroadcast, but also check out all the other shows that they got going on. There's a ton of them that they're out there. We're now getting on TV as well. And so check that out because there's always something new going on. And just to tie things up before we end this, we got just a couple minutes left in the broadcast. I wanted to just say, if you're going through suicidal thoughts or ideation, now's the time to start using that plan. If you got a safety plan, now's the time to use it. Not later, not everything, not when things are so bad that you can't possibly function or act. You want to use that while you're still cognitive and able to do it. Another part of the safety plan is also list some reasons for living. And it could be anything. I mean, it could be your kids, it could be your spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend, your partner. It could be just as simple as seeing the sunrise, whatever it takes just to give you a reason to live one more day. Let's not think about next week, next month, next year. Let's just think about the next 24 hours and getting through that. That's what's so important about having a safety plan, is to get through and to go, to get through and to get through another day. And okay. Sorry, I'm playing around here. Not really playing around. I'm just working on the ticker. Okay. All right. Okay, we're coming into the end. I'm going to go ahead and sign off right here with the outro, but I wanted to thank everybody who came on the show. Thank you so much for showing up. Be sure to check out the next show that's coming up after this one right here. Ted is going to be talking about upcoming shows, things that are on the network right there, plus some news that's talking news about the upcoming TV shows that are going on now. So thank you so much for listening, and remember, everybody, if you're on them, take your meds.
Thank you for listening to the Bipolar DM. They love sharing thoughts and ideas. See you next week, 7 p.m. Saturdays on WLFE-DB.com, where our shows are your shows, and that makes for great talk radio. WLFE Digital Broadcast Network is on TV. You can watch all of our shows on WLFE-DB.com. Check out our channels: Paranormal View for all of your paranormal type shows, LGBTQ Friends for all of our LGBTQ shows, Variety Unlimited for all other shows. It runs 24/7 right on WLFE-DB.com. You'll even catch the lives, all in one place. Never miss an episode, past or future. WLFE-DB.com, where our shows are your shows.